We have categorized disease in two different categories. One is the lifestyle disease, as you said, hypertension, diabetes, cancer, and other is the disease thyroid, another is the disease of germs, microbes, virus, bacteria, tuberculosis, typhoid, malaria, dengue, H1N1. These are the disease of germs. This is what is the most important thing. The moment you eat something, it first go to the stomach, and that is the first interaction of your body with something which is not your body, which is something outside, which is something foreign to your body. The first interaction, the first barrier is your stomach, right? And the stomach decides what should be going inside and what should not be going inside. That is the ultimate barrier between the outside world and the inside world, right? So that is the most important thing. To what extent important? You see, this is the place where the microbes, bacteria lives. How much bacteria? Unlimited. But if you want to quantify it, it is all about 1.4 kg of bacteria. You can, if you collect all the bacteria together and you weigh them, it should be about 1.4, 1.5 kg, equal to the weight of your brain. So your brain weight and the weight of the bacteria is exactly same, almost same. That is why this part is also known as second brain. Many of the function of the stomach can do independently without the interference of the brain. So this thing we have to understand, that you are having two brain, and one of the brain is the one which is the barrier between the outside world and the inside world, and the how important it is, about 1.4 kg of bacteria lying here. Not only here, it is all around your body. It is on the skin. Bacteria हमारे पूरे body में है, stomach में है, esophagus में है, skin में है पूरे. They are invisible because they are very, very small. But in last 50 years, we have announced war against bacteria. We want to kill all of them. We are made to believe they are our enemy number one. So we try to do all the things so that they are not left alive. You see, 1900th century, the 50% of the death, or even more than 50% of the death, was because of the germs, because of tuberculosis, because of smallpox, because of measles, because of diphtheria, right? So because of loose motion connected with, again, microbes. So it was very clear that our enemy number one, which causes 50% of the death or more than 50% of the death, are microbes. So let's kill the enemy, isn't it? And that's what we are trying to achieve. And to achieve that, we have number of tools, we have number of weapons. And these are some of the weapons which we use every day. They are called drugs. They are tools, these are weapons to kill your number one enemy, which is responsible for 50% of the death happening in the world about, say, 100 years back. So, what happened? With the help of these weapons, with the help of these tools, we were able to achieve that 50% or more death. Now it is 2010 report I have. From 50%, it came down to 3%. Isn't it good? Wonderful? Logically, right? 50%, you kill all the enemy. Now the human being die of infectious disease, only 3%. Out of every 100 people, the cause of death because of infectious disease is just 3%. So this means modern medicine has achieved something wonderful. Modern medicine has really contributed. Otherwise, many of us, including me, would have been killed, suffering from tuberculosis or measles or smallpox, right? Maybe already dead. You are alive because you are not killed, because 50% of the cause of illness is taken care by what we call as modern medicine. right? So that is statistically, it is proved the data is here. I call it a big change, very big change, a dramatic change which happened in a span of say 50 years, 50, 60 years, since the time when first antibiotic was invented, penicillin, right? Maybe 1940 or so. But there is one more bigger change. The human nowadays became bigger and taller. You see, for most of you, including me, we are taller than our parents. We are bigger than our parents. Maybe more beautiful than our parents. Right? That is something where we can debate. But surely we are taller than our parents. We are bigger than our parents. Isn't it? Right? So that is a contribution of antibiotics. I will prove it later on. Whether human being or animals, when they are put on antibiotics, any kind of antibiotics, they start growing very, very big, very, very quickly. That's why the animals who are grown to be killed so that it becomes your food, they are grown with lot of antibiotics, because then they will grow very, very fast, very, very big, and then they will be more money. It will translate into more money, right? So one more good thing is, you want to be bigger, taller, or you want to remain shorter? Everybody would like to be taller and bigger, isn't it? And this means antibiotics or those medicine are contributing silently in one more thing, making you taller, making you bigger, right? So there is a reference also. But it's like, you see tomato, which is grown, homegrown tomato in a village, looks little bit ugly, very, very small, but then genetically modified tomato. Looks like coming from the factory, all evenly shaped, all very big. So nowadays the human being, should we compare the human being with this tomato or to this? Bigger, taller, right, like that. So that is how they will look. But one more thing I'll add, human now became bigger and taller and also sicker. More sick than before, no doubt about it. Because now most part of the life, for most of the people, we are consuming some kind of medication, and for most part of the life, for most people, we are under some kind of pain on a continuous basis. Some kind of pain, right? So continuously, if you are dependent on some medication every day, so you are not living. You are trying to live, right? So you are not healthy. So that is one thing, that today's humans are bigger and taller but sicker. Sick than what it was before. So why all this happening? What the study says? It's all about studies. It is all about proof. So the mechanism, how the body works inside, what causes these changes, if you understand the cause, then only you can find the cure. Then only you can find the solution. To find the solution of a problem, first thing is we have to find what causes this problem at the first place. Unless you know what is the solution, what is the problem, what is the cause, why it happened, you cannot go for the solution. So the cause, let's go back. It starts with what we call as antibiotic resistance. It is a very simple concept. Let me make you understand in a very simple way. I'll give you one example to make you understand. Classical example is example of one bacteria called Helico, that more and more people were suffering from ulcer. And if you suffer from ulcer even today for long period, ulcer gets converted into cancer. So people are suffering from ulcer, not getting cured, and then getting converted into cancer. One thing commonly found in all the people who were suffering from ulcer was they all were having one bacteria in common, H. pylori bacteria. Anybody who will suffer from ulcer, in their body, in their stomach, lot of H. pylori bacteria. Then the science invented an antibiotic, means a tool to kill that H. pylori. And they saw when they kill H. pylori bacteria in the people who are suffering from ulcer, the ulcer goes away. So they got a cure, a medicine to treat ulcer. Clear? So this means you see 10 people suffering from ulcer and then see what is common among them and you try to eliminate that common thing. And if the ulcer goes, this means the cause is, what is the cause in this case? H. pylori, right? So you know the cause, you remove the cause. If it is cured, then it is more, now you are sure about it, the cause of ulcer was H. pylori. What is the underlying mechanism? That is not important, that people are not interested. Most of the time even science could not find. But more important here is that if I could do something to remove ulcer, that is the first duty of science, or what we call as modern medicine. So that was achieved. So how it happens? Imagine in a stomach of a person with a ulcer, to kill it, you have to give some antibiotic, which can attack, which can kill this bacteria. Here, very important thing you have to understand, the total number of bacteria in the stomach is constant. Neither it can grow more, neither it can grow less. The total population in the stomach is constant, right? Let's say it is 1.4 kg of bacteria. That is constant. Now, when the antibiotic is killing this H. pylori bacteria, the ulcer is gone, surely, but the population of total bacteria will reduce or increase? Reduce. But the nature of the body is, it has to remain constant. Even if it gets reduced, some other kind of bacteria will multiply quickly, so that the total number, total quantity should become same, right? So the kind of bacteria which will get an opportunity to grow very quickly are the kind which cannot be killed by that antibiotic. Is it logical? Yeah. So those bacteria, those are known as resistant bacteria. They are already there, but in a very small quantity in the stomach, right? So small quantity that it cannot influence your body at all. It cannot do any good, it cannot do any bad, it is just a minority resident in your body, right? But now, when the antibiotic killed the H. pylori in this case, then the minority which cannot be killed by that particular antibiotic, what it will happen? It will get an opportunity, a playground to increase very quickly. And how much time it takes? 1 day. In 1 day, 300 generation. Right? So 1 day is enough, and within 1 day, what will happen? Your stomach looking like this with ulcer, antibiotic comes in, ulcer is gone, but now your stomach look like this. Right? These red are resistant bacteria. Resistant means they cannot be attacked. They are immune to antibiotic, number one. And most likely these are the bacteria which are notorious also. Somehow they are notorious also. They are not contributing any good to your body. But when they are in large quantity, it is going to be a burden on the body. Because the total amount of bacteria cannot be more or less, it has to be constant. This means they are occupying a space, but they are not contributing in your well-being. Right? So that is one example. Now, if you start taking the antibiotic more and more, this means your body, your stomach will develop more and more bacteria which are resistant to the antibiotics. Right? So, you see, since 1940 or 1930, when the first antibiotic was introduced, it took only 5 years, 7 years, 10 years for the population to become resistant to certain kind of bacteria which is there in the body. This means take any medicine, it is not going to affect that bacteria because they are resistant, and that is why they have grown. Right? So this means now this generation, including me and you, we have what inside are more or less called resistant bacteria. Then 1988 to 1992, 14 antibiotic was invented. But after 2012, no invention of antibiotics. Because now your body is full of resistant bacteria. Now there is no weapon which can kill. Right? So this means now we are not the same human being as we were 20 years back, right? We were not the same brain, 1.4 kg is there, still it is 1.4 kg, at that time also 1.4 kg, but this 1.4 kg is different from that 1.4 kg. The population is different, their behavior is different from that 1.4 kg, right? So, in the beginning, when the antibiotic was introduced, it seems that it is saving some life. But in long run, now a new problem which is called antibiotic resistant. This means you are full of those bacteria which are your resident, but they are not contributing to your well-being, right? So, I'll give you one example. H. pylori we talked. When it is in high quantity, it will cause what? Ulcer. So what you did? You killed it. When it is in very less quantity, it causes gastric, esophageal reflux disease, celiac disease, stomach cancer, asthma, right? So these are the things which causes, right, allergy. If it is very less or negligible, even then it causes disease. If it is very much high, even then it causes disease. Both the cases it causes disease. All this disease which you can see here, it comes under the category of lifestyle disease, or it comes under the category of germ disease. These are known to be lifestyle disease, but the culprit here is, the percentage of a particular bacteria, right? Or if I talk of Akkermansia mucinifila, need not to remember the name, right? Name of a bacteria. If your body is lacking this bacteria, this is the bacteria which triggers the pancreas, tells the pancreas how to produce insulin. So, but if the population of this bacteria is less, then the pancreas will not learn or will not be alert enough to produce the required amount of insulin. How much insulin your body needs every day, every moment, this calculation was sent, this information is sent by something called this bacteria which is there on the screen. And again, if this bacteria is not there in your body or very less in your body, then you will see that the body is not able to produce insulin as much as should be, and you will be categorized as a diabetes patient. Diabetes patient is a lifestyle disease, but who is responsible? Microbes, right? So this means you are not paying attention to the microbe because it is connected with either genetic or lifestyle disease. So the focus is somewhere else, right? The culprit is someone else, right? But the focus is somewhere else. So you cannot find the solution, right, if you focus at the wrong place, right? If your money or a money purse is lost somewhere else, but you try to find it in different location, however good you are at finding certain things. One more example. We have heard of this hormone, serotonin. It is known to be connected with the hormone of the brain. Anything related to the brain, mood, depression, emotion, right? Brain's functioning is connected with this hormone. But the interesting thing is, 80% of this hormone is produced in the stomach by the bacteria, the friendly bacteria. But the kind of bacteria which is in your stomach is not friendly, resistant bacteria. So, and because of that, you see nowadays, insomnia, autism, brain disorder, these are the kind of name which are coined only in last 30 years. Before 30 years, when you were in school, when I was in school, I've never heard anybody autism. I've seen a child with a allergy or a skin disease, or I've never seen a small child with asthma. Or in my whole school, right, if I count how many children were there with spectacles, very few. But now every third child is wearing spectacles. You go to a school, every third or fourth child you will find wearing spectacles. So these are the big differences, which seems to be a lifestyle disorder. But if you see inside, you'll find there is some connection with the microbe also, right? So the population of microbe these days are different from the population of microbe when we were young. Microbial resistance. It is a big topic all over the world for last few years. In last few years, modern medicine has literally accepted that the medicine has failed to work. It cannot work anymore because technically, your body has developed resistant bacteria so much that now the medicine cannot work. Now, if any medicine is invented to kill the bacteria, it can kill the bacteria only when it kills you as well. I'll give you one example how the microbe and the disease connection exist. One example, like let's talk of a hormone, estrogen, a female hormone, mostly a female hormone. Body is producing, ovary is producing, it goes to the liver, and in the liver is chemical factory. It does some processing based on its own intelligence. It combines this hormone with sugar. So from the factory, when the chemical factory, when the product is coming out, it comes out estrogen plus sugar, coated with sugar, right? Now, this travels in the intestine. When it travels in the intestine is full of bacteria, friendly bacteria. And bacteria's food to live is that sugar. So bacteria, what it does, while the estrogen is carrying sugar, bacteria takes away the sugar from the estrogen and eat it to feed itself. So the estrogen is left alone. If it is left alone, it will do only one thing, it will enter the blood. Now it will be circulating in the blood, right? So, and it will contribute, it will do its function for which it is made. That is how. Thank you. But if your body is full of resistant bacteria, then how it happens? Estrogen will come to the liver will does its own duty, chemical factory, the finished good is estrogen plus sugar. Now they are flowing in the stomach, but in the stomach, instead of friendly bacteria, what is there? And the resistant bacteria behavior is not the same as friendly bacteria. They eat different kind of food or eat the sugar. This means they will not be able to break the bonding. If estrogen and sugar bonding is not broken, it cannot enter the blood, it has to excrete. Right? Thank you, friends. And if it excretes, the level of estrogen in the blood will decrease. Lesser is the level of estrogen in the blood, more is abnormal bleeding, irregular periods, PCOD, all kind of female hormonal disease. Thank you, friends. Thank you. So, this is the contribution of modern medicine to us in last 50 years. So, here you have to understand, although if you look carefully, these diseases mostly look to be a lifestyle-oriented disease, or somebody will say this is a genetic-oriented disease, but the truth, if you see step by step, it is more to do with micro in the body. The resistant bacteria or the